Welcome back to another episode of Finn vs. History. As ever, I'm joined by Horatio Gould.
Young boys.
This week, we're talking about two beautiful boys.
Two beautiful, sweet boys.
Sweet, beautiful boys who have not been seen for nigh on, 700 years, something like that?
Do you think they're dead, or...
Sorry?
Do you think they're dead?
I think they are by now.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it was still a cold case, you know. It's like a McCann sort of situation.
Well, this is the first instance of Madeleine McCann. I should say, we're not talking about Madeleine McCann. We're talking about Richard III,
Yep.
Britain's most infamous king, and those two sweet, beautiful boys.
Yeah, sweet.
Beautiful, tender boys. We may be getting we might be getting quite sidetracked by just how beautiful these boys are. Have you seen the photo that was done in the Victorian times of them?
What? What, of their skeletons?
Sorry, not a photo, sorry. I mean a picture.
By Millet, the pre-Raphaelite painter. They're gorgeous.
You just said three things.
Sorry.
I've got no fucking
the
idea.
one where they have long...
I'm neuronormative. You can't be dropping artists on me like that.
The one with the long blonde hair.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Charlie, can you get the photo?
Can you get that?
What was it called? Pre-Raphaelite?
Pre-Raphaelite. So it's like this group of... painters from, I think, like they're based around West London, I think, and it was like the Romanticism movement. So like Ophelia drowning.
No,
you know that famous painting of Ophelia drowning.
I probably do if you. Yeah.
That's pre-Raphaelite.
I'm not really into museums.
No.
I bashed through them quite quick. Museums.
Now, what have you typed in there, Nad? No. No, do Princess in the Tower.
Princess in the Tower. Have you just Googled young boys? Right, Charlie.
Princess in the Tower. Milas.
If that's a company hard drive, we really need to put some more rules on Charlie's Googling. We're talking today about Richard III.
Here we go. Here we go. There it is.
Here we go. And these two gorgeous, beautiful. Look at those. Get that full screen, Charlie. You've made it smaller.
Get that full screen right now.
So these are the...
It's a great painting.
This is one of the... Oh, my word. Look at these beautiful boys. They look like they're in that Eric Prydz video.
Yeah.
In that they're in tights, doublets, and...
they look like hot women in the 80s, you know, when they all had... Yeah. Kind of looks like Sarah Connor from Terminator.
It does look like Sarah Connor from Terminator. Yeah.
But there's two of them.
And
twins.
They're two incredibly twinky young things.
Yeah.
And one of the great unsolved mysteries of British history is what happened to these two gorgeous little things. Richard III is... Everyone assumes that he murdered them.
Yeah.
But it's an unsolved mystery until now. We will be probably in our next part. We'll be going to the.
Well, this is a form of history where I think women really come into their own in this, because most of the time it's autistic men droning on. But I feel this sort of era, it's like female autism actually comes to the fore a little bit.
Wars of the Roses.
War of the Roses.
This is up there with the ugliest historians I've ever seen.
Do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're still in the medieval period, the late medieval period. History's about to get fit.
Well, so I had to call my sister, whose special interest is from basically the War of the Roses.
Special being the major word.
Her fixations
are... My special sister's interest.
War of the Roses up to the Tudors, because she likes history, but through a very female lens, right?
Yes.
So it's gossip.
Terrifying. What even is that?
It's gossip, relationships. It's all about the story. It's all about the characters.
Yep.
As soon as she's not interested in Agincourt, and it stops when it reaches the Stuarts, right? So as soon as boy history starts coming in, she's out.
It's the first half of Titanic. Yeah,
exactly. This is basically Game of Thrones is basically based entirely off this, the dynastic things. It's so similar, all the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
It's so hard to follow, though. I found this pretty impenetrable.
Oh, it's incredibly boring.
Yeah.
So much of this is boring.
I like the War of the Roses. The boys in the tower, I don't care.
What are you talking about? Have you not seen that photo? Those two sweet boys?
They're sweet boys. They're sweet, gorgeous boys.
Some of the most beautiful boys I've ever seen.
And it's interesting with this, we could say it's like a Madeleine McCann, but it is also, sorry to bring it back, but it is also kind of a British 9/11 again, because there's two of them.
Well, there's a tower involved. I get
No. There's two boys. They're the two towers.
Right.
And it's like one's gone, and another!
I don't know. I think they disappeared at the same time, though.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but the two towers as well. They could have killed them one at a time, you know?
Yes.
What I'm saying is that they're the two towers of British medieval culture. They both get destroyed.
I don't need much to compare things to 9/11, but even I am grasping this comparison.
Yeah.
So the Richard III is kind of, has he killed these boys? Did he fuck them? Who knows? He was found in a car park. I mean, that is what that's where they're found.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing.
That's the first thing the historian said is, "Who are you here to meet?" As they dug him up in the Leicester car park.
Cornering him outside an Asda.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No, sorry, I didn't know. No. She told me she was 16. You're going away for a long time. Just screaming at a skeleton. But Richard III has kind of been made into this kind of ogreish villain.
Sure.
Which I think
He's got a tough read.
Yeah. He's but a lot of that I think, as we'll find, is maybe more based in Shakespeare's play.
We don't know what it was like. I doubt he was worse than how he's depicted.
He can't be worse.
He's kind of the cartoonish villain of British history.
Yeah, but he could actually be a pedo.
Right, I guess so. Yeah.
So he could be worse. I guess so. We're the first people to really say that he could be a pedo. We're the first historians to. King Richard III was more of a handsome surf dude than a hideous misfit, an expert has said. Again, handsome surf dude is the things that these people say, the historians of this period.
But a lot of what drove the quest to find Richard III and jig his narrative, because his name has been utterly besmirched.
Yes.
Especially by Billy Shakespeare, right? Yeah. But it's that woman who's like peak female autism, the one they made the film about, the person who found Richard in the car park.
Yes, yeah.
What's her name? Philippa Langley,
is it?
Yeah, Philippa Langley. She basically, it seems like it was driven because she saw that painting of Richard III and got so horned up by it. She was like, this doesn't look like a tyrant, this looks like a fucking hot guy. Yeah. And then she looked everywhere,
and dug up a car park.
Similar to like the people who marry people in prison, you know how like Charles Manson had all those wives of people. I was going to say,
it's more like those women that marry like planes or like bits of the wall, bits of the Berlin Wall. A woman married the Eiffel Tower. It's that kind of thing. Where you are, when you're so horny, you are applying to the council for permission to dig up a car park. I mean, that's also a female privilege, I'll say. Because men are that horny all the time. Men are saying, I bet there's a fucking hot woman down there. And the council are like, well, I'm not giving you access to a digger.
Looking in the bins in a car park. I bet there's someone in there. I bet
there's some fucking hot babe down there. Yeah. So he was exhumed. I mean, again, who fucking knows if it's actually him? Well, actually, no, I think
you're a fan of exhumations?
Well, listen, I would love to start a campaign to exhume Hitler, but that's not... That's sort of all kinds of problems there. I'd love to see Bin Laden. I would like to do a the Titan submersible Titanic tour. Yeah, I'd love to find where Bin Laden is in the sea and take people down to see him.
Well, as a fan, we're a huge fan of embalming on this podcast.
Big fan of embalming.
Exhuming, we also a big fan. I think this podcast is very pro embalming and exhuming.
I think we're very comfortable with death. I think it's healthy.
Yeah. So when we die, fill us full of oil or whatever it is to embalm us.
Just baste me in olive oil and just stick me somewhere. Yeah. And move me around.
Also, if you bury me, feel free to exhume me at any point. Do not worry about that whatsoever.
I think the dead people should be treated like living statues. They should just be in Covent Garden. And
Madame Tussauds.
Yeah, you just don't know who's alive and who's. You don't know who's a fucking annoying nonce bothering tourists and who's actually a dead body. I mean, do you travel a lot?
I do travel a lot.
Really?
Yeah, and often when I'm out there, I am looking for ways to get connection to the internet, right?
Yes.
Sometimes when I'm trying to see if I'm getting ripped off, I might want to connect to the internet very easily.
Yes.
To check it if that's the case.
And you're going there with a fucking modem and an Ethernet cable.
Exactly.
Going, please, my friend, please.
Because one of the most annoying things about going on like a 3-day city break or something is you have to go to buy a SIM, install it, and just then take it out again. You'll lose the SIM.
Can't be asked.
Yeah.
I'm already dealing with the bad food, the smelly people, and
my inherent racism.
Why am I here? I can't even connect to the internet to see what's happening in Great Britain. And if you download the Saley app and you plan ahead, you
your
can
travels
watch whatever,
will go off without a hitch.
Whatever hardcore filth you like from the comfort of your phone. You could be squatting over an excuse of a French toilet, watching hardcore pornography on your phone. Is that what
they're called, French toilets? Is that what you call a ladyboy?
Sorry, Paris. I mean Paris. You could be in Paris. No, I mean the squat. You know, the squat ones.
Right.
You know, where they're not toilets.
Yes.
It's a hole in the floor. With two kind of shoe marks.
Yeah. I like the ergonomic grip.
The cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
The French. Saley is a proud sponsor of Finn vs. History. So if you want to save on roaming fees, download the Saley app now. You can either scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description and use the code TRUTHER to get 15% off your first purchase.
Bye. Should we do a word on the suits this week before we get into anything?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because
we've just decided to wear whatever suits we like.
Yeah, well, so you look very like a stiff upper lip. Well, you look like, it feels like you're the headmaster of a school and I'm a new drama teacher and you've called me in
because
just to have a quiet word about how potentially I'm misleading, corrupting the youth with the way I'm dressing. I'm wearing a green
I think
number.
You're fucking the youth, I think.
Green number, pink shirt, orange tie, but...
no, I think you're my son, and I want you to inherit and work for the company, but you're too gay, and you've turned up for work at the first day of the investment bank.
Hi,
hello.
Now listen here, boy. Quiet word.
Sam, please. This isn't how we dress in these parts.
So what's interesting is, though I'm wearing quite a flamboyant suit, I have very boring socks on. And you are wearing a boring suit, but all of your personality has gone strictly into your
think
sock.
A man should only express himself through the sock. I think that's probably a rule of tailoring.
Sure, yeah.
I think the socks are where you put your flair.
Right.
You don't. I mean, this is a nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare. Anyway, so Richard III is born at Fotheringhay Castle. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, before we really get into the story, we should probably do some context of the Wars of the Roses, because he's born pretty much into the Wars of the Roses.
Well, that's something about all these guys, when you're painting them as villains and stuff, it's like, it was the standards of the time, and it is... Everyone's Machiavellian at this point.
Sorry, where are we? We're in the late medieval period. We're in the 1450s.
Do you want to place this for us?
Yeah, so the 1450s. So this is before... the invention of the tank. So
yes.
The Wars of the Roses, there's no tanks involved.
No tanks involved in this war.
There's
tanks of mead at this point.
There's tankards. It's after the invention of the tankard.
Okay, right.
I say that, I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, pre-tank, post-tankard.
Yeah.
That's kind of
PT. Now that is quite confusing as an acronym. Yeah. But Charlie, when was the tankard invented?
Yeah, Charlie, quick.
Come on.
Charlie.
Stop looking at those beautiful boys and tell us where the tankard was invented. I think the first tanks are used in World War I.
Right at the end of World War One, I'd say around 1917.
Bates the 14th century, earliest surviving examples originally. Yeah, I've absolutely nailed it. We're fine.
Yeah, I mean, but only just.
Yeah.
I thought there was a lot more in it.
I'm trying to place this for the listeners. At some point between the early 16th and 17th century, the tank had developed from a pear shape to the cylindrical shape we recognise today. That's incredibly boring. Get rid of that. I don't want anything to do with that. This is not a history of the shape of tankards, for Christ's sakes. This is a history of the Wars of the Roses. Now, Richard is born into the Wars of the Roses, and we should... Now, the Wars of the Roses basically is a sort of English medieval soap opera revolving around 100%. The Plantagenet family. Yeah. And Richard III is the last medieval king, you might say.
Right, before it becomes enters the Renaissance.
Early modern period where your sister starts to check out because things get too interesting. So he's the last British king to die in battle.
Right.
Which everyone's like, oh, he's amazing. But then when you realise he was disabled and he got hit over the head, you think, that's a bit fucking... Come on, chill out. Chill out,
it wasn't like 6 guys beating a guy in a wheelchair to death.
It's not that heroic, really. But then again, if he was a nonce and he was found in a car park, I guess, they were,
Horses for courses.
Horses for courses. A lot of nonces probably are disabled in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, it's a disability, paedophilia.
I'm saying so. I think you should get a free laptop on the NHS.
I think you should get a badge and park where you want.
Park where you want.
Not near a school. It's like the opposite. It's like a big red badge. If you see this part near a school, call the police. So Richard III is born...
Just get, the context.
The Wars of the Roses.
And I was trying to pin my sister on how it happened.
I was trying to pin my sister down.
Well, that's very much on this time, to be honest.
Spit in her mouth. But anyway...
It's basically Henry VI, who is the son of Henry V, Giga Chad, who won Agincourt, right? Right.
I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get a family tree up, because this is basically, over the course of 40 years, who's king and who's in charge, it's like a revolving door between these two different houses, the Yorkist house and the Lancastrian house.
But they're also both related.
They're both houses that come from ultimately Edward III. And because everyone listening is a complete dum-dum, we're gonna help them out, because literally everyone on this family tree is called Edward or Richard. Right? So we're going to give them new names, I think, so that we can actually talk about because there's several Edwards and Richards in this story, and they're all quite important. So I think
the thing is also with the War of the Roses, I listened to podcasts about it, incredibly boring, and then I was speaking to my sister and I worked out who the people were. I found it very interesting.
Right.
If you don't know who they are, it's completely impenetrable because it's all Edward. But as soon as you start realising that the characters and the people, it becomes interesting. I think.
Edward III.
So this is Edward III is a 100 Years War king. He's
more.
Yeah, so he's a king during the 100 Years War.
So this is 13.
He has a very long reign.
1377. He dies. He has 2 sons. Lionel, which is
it's a rare name in the royal line.
It really is. Yeah. I think they should bring that back.
Yeah, a lot of these names just sort of, you have them. I saw a Jasper. There was a Jasper Tudor. Henry Tudor's dad, I think, is Jasper Tudor.
Lovely.
You don't see that.
No, they should mix it up.
Yeah,
more.
why is it all 4 names?
Yeah. So then Lionel and John of Gaunt.
Yeah.
Gaunt John. Now we'd say John of AIDS.
Yeah.
So John of AIDS, change his name to John of AIDS, Charlie, on your version. Right. Yeah, are you going to do it in your one? Oh, great. So
Lionel Messi.
So Lionel Messi. So Edward III gives birth, has 2 sons, Lionel Messi and John of AIDS.
Brilliant.
That should make it much clearer. Yeah. Now Lionel Messi, not the current Lionel Messi. Yeah. That should be. Can you put Lionel Messi the first?
Yeah.
Now Lionel Messi, he has a son. Richard, Duke of York.
But there's loads of Richards.
There's loads of Richards, and they are all also Duke of York.
Yeah.
So, do we know what this guy looks like? Charlie,
I've no idea.
Can you get a photo up of Richard, Duke of York from 1411?
Yeah, let's have. We can't name someone without knowing what they look like.
No, because they're all there are several Richards, and everyone also is a duke of an incredibly boring place. That's what's quite funny. And there are all these bloody battles in the most anodyne towns. Yeah. My God, look at him. Right. He looks like he's got, what's that disease where you've got like a tiny head?
What? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
Well, it looks like a walrus.
Microcephaly. That's what it is.
Well, he looks like a walrus, right? Yeah.
He does look like a walrus, actually. All right, put Richard Walrus.
Okay.
Richard Walrus, Duke of York. So, if you're still with us, Edward III, 2 sons, Lionel Messi the first and John of AIDS. Right. Lionel Messi has a son, Richard Walrus.
Yeah.
He's Duke of York.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, John of AIDS.
The AIDS side.
The AIDS side. John of AIDS, his son is Henry V.
Who
is a ledge.
Yeah.
Solid gold ledge.
One of the most famous kings in English history, right?
I don't think we need a nickname for Henry V.
Yeah.
Even our dumbest of the dumb listeners should be aware that that's quite... Just put Henry V brackets hates the French.
Yeah.
Now, Henry V is on the... what's that? The Lancastrian side?
Yeah.
Yeah. So John of AIDS is Lancastrian. You know?
Yeah.
You know, mate. And my name's John of AIDS.
Yeah, right. So he's wearing a bucket hat. He's got a parka on.
Yeah, he's into Oasis. Champagne supernova. That's John of AIDS.
Right.
He gives birth to Henry V, hates the French.
No,
He doesn't give birth to him, sorry.
Then Henry V gives birth to Henry VI, who is Joe Biden.
Well, I heard somewhere on a podcast, maybe, that he had a child's mind.
Right.
That he's actually, in today's terms, he's just mentally disabled.
But the way that they worked it around power was similar to the final years of Biden, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like, what are we going to do? Our leader doesn't know what day it is. His trousers are around his ankles, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of Biden from birth.
Right, yeah. That's the medical term is Biden from birth.
And a lot of this comes from... Yeah, the trickiness of having a Biden from birth on the throne.
Yeah.
Which is going to happen with all the interbreeding that happens at the royal line. It's one of the things that happens.
Well, it's inevitable, isn't it? So can you put Biden from birth child's mind for Henry VI?
Yeah.
So Henry VI is he's king several points. Sorry, Biden from birth, child's mind.
But it seems like he's everyone's like, what the fuck, this guy we don't know what's wrong with him. We don't have the words to describe this sort of disability, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like he's in the tower going in and out of consciousness throughout this.
Yeah.
So then his brother takes over from him, and then there's lots of people who are claimants to the throne now, because it's like, well, we need a new king.
Well, Biden from birth, child's mind. He's king after Henry V.
Yeah.
But he's got a child's mind, and the Wars of the Roses really kick off now, which is where people are like, this guy's fucking hopeless.
We need a new person.
We need a new guy.
But then he has multiple reigns, because at one point it seems like he goes to sleep for 10 years and then he wakes up and becomes king again, because they're like, oh, fuck, he's alive again.
So on the other side, so that's on the AIDS side. Yeah. On the Lionel Messi side, you've Richard Walrus, Messi's son. Yeah. Richard Walrus has had several children. He's had Edward IV, who is a fucking lad.
Well, rest of history said he's basically a proto-Henry VIII.
Well, he's very similar. He is Henry VIII's grandfather.
Yeah, and it's very similar type vibes.
So he loves pints.
Loves
shagging. Loves shagging.
Yeah.
So basically, I think he's classic shagger, basically.
Big shagger, Edward IV.
Edward IV, big shagger. Big shagger the fourth. And then he has a brother.
He has two brothers.
He has George, the Duke of Clarence,
who rest of history describes as sort of a Fredo-like character. Sort of, he's the middle child syndrome, very insecure, very ratty. So I think we could call George, Duke of Clarence. We call him Fredo. Yeah.
Fredo from The Godfather is Big Shagger the Fourth's brother. Yeah. Richard and then his brother is Richard II,
Richard III. Right.
Sorry, Richard III. Yeah. Richard III is, we should talk about, he is born with scoliosis, they think.
Right.
Which is
what is scoliosis?
So it's a curvature of the spine.
Uh-oh.
But it's not it's quite a weird one.
It's like a Beckham free kick of a spine.
Yes, it's exactly that. It's Beckham against Greece. So actually, can you put Richard II brackets Beckham against Greece spine? So just as he was coming out at the last minute, they think it's all over. They think he's going to die, and then he bends out the birth canal. Oh! And so it's not like, so in the Shakespeare...
Well, it depends which way it bends, because either Roberto Carlos against France, or it's
Le
Beckham,
Tournoi.
or it's Beckham versus Greece. No. I don't know which way it bends.
I think it's Beckham versus Greece. Because, Le Tournoi would be mad. So now in the Shakespeare play, he's got a hunchback like over. Yeah. But that's not what scoliosis is. It is a Beckham free kick in that it's this way.
Right. Okay.
So it's literally,
he's kooky.
Yeah. Or
he's Zooey Deschanel quirky.
Yeah. So one
he's
shoulder.
Constantly going.
He's constantly going. Oh.
He's like, constantly going random.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, so random.
Right.
So he's like this. He's got one shoulder higher than the other.
Yeah.
Which when you try and do it is fucking annoying.
Right.
If you're just constantly like this, and then imagine having a broadsword.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's got a little hand as well.
Fine. Yeah.
He's sort of Jeremy Beadle. Beckham against Grease spine. Jeremy Beadle hand.
Right.
So he's the subject of the podcast today, but he doesn't become king till much later on.
Mm-hmm.
So the other person we need to talk about is this absolute slag, Elizabeth Woodville.
Well, yeah, MILF Central.
You say that. Have you seen a photo of her?
No. Well, I mean, it's the Middle Ages.
But even by the Middle Ages standards.
Yeah.
This woman...
I'm a big Woodville fan. I won't have slander against her.
Right, so Elizabeth Woodville...
I planned a lot of slander against her.
I'm intending to just mainly slander her. Elizabeth Woodville is a common woman.
No, she's not common. She comes from it's just a shit noble family, right?
Yes,
she's not common.
Yeah, she's common. Yeah.
Right.
Now that's a photo of Elizabeth Woodville.
Yeah.
She's completely bald.
Well, no, that's the hat. She's...
What?
It's the hat she's wearing. She's not doing...
No, in that photo, she's bald, and then she's got a bit of a hat on the back of her head.
Yeah, but her hair's all tied up in that hat at the back of the head.
No, because they've drawn the hat. You can see the shape of her head.
Right.
So she's bald.
So you think she's Sinead O'Connor bald?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So if you could put Sinead O'Connor for Elizabeth Woodville, that would help
bald.
Our listeners.
No, because she's not Sinead O'Connor. She's Lisa Ann. Because
no, she's not a MILF. She's
That's the whole point.
She's a mentally insane woman.
No, I will not have this slander against Woodville. She causes all of this shit, by the way.
Yes.
Because she manages to seduce a much younger Edward IV to fuck up the entire royal lineage just because she's such a horn dog. Because he's such a horn dog.
He's such a horn dog.
So you're telling me this bald, mad woman is tricking Edward IV into ruining everything? Nah. She is smart. She's devious.
Listen, Sinead O'Connor was probably absolutely crazy in the South.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
She was wild, right? Bald women, my word.
Fine, yeah, like Amber Rose.
Gail Porter was on Big Ben with her arse out.
Yeah.
Now, again, she didn't know about that.
Yeah.
again, that was pretty Me Too. Yeah. So Elizabeth Woodville is Gail Porter with her ass out on Big Ben. And that's absolute catnip to Edward IV, who's top shagger.
I think Edward IV was... they'd planned for him to have a marriage that would sort of end a lot of the disputes of the War of the Roses, and that he had like a arranged marriage that would have sorted this all out. Yeah. But instead he went for the Woodville. Well, yeah,
because Woodville refused to be his mistress. She was like, you put a ring on it.
Very much like Anne Boleyn sort of vibe, right? She held out which is a way to play a horny king. I'll only shag you if you marry me. And then he's like, oh, I'll do anything. I'll marry, coronate, you're the queen. And then he comes, he's like, oh, fuck.
I've got a bald wife. Brilliant.
What Henry VIII realised you could do is you could just chop their heads off.
Yes.
Which Edward IV didn't realise was an option.
No, exactly.
Because that's sort of the get out of jail free card.
That's the Trump card.
Oh, I'm king.
Yeah.
Oh, just cut her head off.
Do you think it was mainly post-nut clarity that resulted in them being beheaded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as soon as it's like, oh,
fuck, I actually hate you. I hate myself. I'm going to cut your head off. So just to recap where we are, Edward III has two sons, Lionel Messi I and John of Aides. Yeah. Lionel Messi's side, he then has Richard Walrus. Yeah. Richard Walrus has three sons. Big Shagger, Fredo from The Godfather, Beckham Against Grease Spine.
Yes. Yeah.
Big Shagger marries Gail Porter on Big Ben.
Right.
A bald, attractive woman.
Yeah.
Now, you said you didn't know what Gail Porter on Big Ben...
I didn't know.
So, FHM in the late 90s, they projected Gail Porter nude onto Big Ben.
Right.
It goes without saying...
This is very 90s.
This is very pre-Me Too. This is probably...
Did she form a children's TV presenter?
Gail Porter's... I mean, this is actually...
Was she involved in it?
We should probably do an episode on this, because this is actually fucking insane. No, she wasn't involved in it at all.
Sort of like revenge porn, almost?
It's almost, it's probably the hardest revenge porn you could get, which is projecting someone naked onto the Houses of Parliament.
Right.
I don't know how they... Because they must have had a projector on...
But people love projecting shit onto the House of Parliament. Was this one of the earliest ones to do it?
This isn't led by donkeys.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really...
But anyway, porn innovates technology. So
yes, it does,
in many ways it led forward the idea of projecting stuff onto the House of Parliament, which now doesn't really hold the same sort of stead because so many people are doing it.
So Elizabeth Woodville is I mean, we're arguing over whether she's bald or not. In all the pictures I've seen, she's bald,
right?
But she's attractive enough that Big Shagger marries her rather than just has her as a side piece.
Yeah.
Now, she starts everything, really, Gail Porter.
Yes.
Because she's
one of the big problems with bringing her in, because she's married, it's all laid out, there's lots of noble families, she's from a lesser noble family. Him marrying her just because he's horny is something that you're not really meant to do, because it's carefully planned out so that all the people get the right access to power. Now, when he marries a Woodville, she has to bring her fucking in-laws. That's the problem.
She's got baggage from previous marriage.
She's got baggage from previous marriage. She's older. She's got all the things that you shouldn't be as a queen, right?
Yeah.
But when you bring someone in who's not really in the top royal realm, she has like 5 brothers or whatever. She has like cousins and stuff. Yeah. So she's bringing all the fucking in-laws.
The filth.
Yeah, it's your...
That's what I call my in-laws.
It's your girlfriend's cousins now you're having to hang out with.
Yeah. You know? Absolute filth.
Apart from her older brother, Anthony Woodville, who's a bit of a fucking lad.
Well, so now we're getting to the crunch point in that Big Shagger and Gail Porter on Big Ben, they have 3 children. Yeah. 2 of which are those... fucking beautiful boys.
One of the issues of this era actually is the fertility of these lot. Yeah. Because with Henry VIII, the big problem was his lack of fertility, right? Well, you know...
fertility in these days...
he had 6 wives, he had 3 kids. It's not great.
Yeah, but infertility in these days means sons.
Yes.
Daughters may as well be infertile. If you're only having daughters, they're like, well, fucking...
a lot of these people are having like 10 kids. Yeah. A lot of these are all... And to be honest, you only really want an heir, a spare, and maybe another, potentially. Yeah. But an heir and a spare is ideal.
And a girl for one of the other ones to marry.
Yes, heir, spare, girl. That's kind of a dream. But some of these people are having like 5 sons. And if you have 5 sons, it's going to be a civil war.
Yeah, because there's just too much testosterone.
Exactly, yeah. You don't want a sausage fest. You want a bouncer. You want like the Berghain bouncer making sure that not enough, outside the woman's vagina giving birth saying, like, sorry, too many lads.
No.
Do you have any girls with you?
I don't think that's what Berghain do. I think that's what like shit nightclubs in like Oxford do.
Yeah, Berghain.
Berghain is.
Do you have it? Do you have a fist up your ass?
Yeah, sorry. You're a woman. This is basically for guys to fist themselves.
Right.
So the two beautiful boys, the princes of the tower. In fact, Charlie, could you? You've got a picture of a Berghain bouncer.
This is Sven. He's the famous Berghain bouncer.
Yeah.
He's a man I assume that you know, Charlie.
Personally, yeah.
I've seen him. I've never met him.
Yeah.
He keeps himself to himself.
Again, amazing to be a German with the self-confidence to tattoo your face.
Yeah. Well, it's come back around, isn't it? There was a real lull post-war, and now it's back in.
Yeah, I think I'm just amazed that Germans are still tattooing. I mean, I just think the whole barcode thing rules it out.
I
think it should have killed the industry. Right, get rid of him. Can you rename Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury a Beautiful Boy 1 and Beautiful Little Twink 2?
Yeah.
Gorgeous Sweet Twink number 2.
Can you look up how many kids does Elizabeth Woodville have? Because I know there's 3 here, but I swear she has more.
She has 2 from a previous marriage.
She's 2 from let's just see how many in general.
10 children.
That's what I mean.
Holy fuck.
7 were girls, 3 were boys. One of them, I assume, died in childbirth or was from another marriage. And so it's only 2 of the boys. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of kids happening.
Yeah. So Big Shagger and Gail Porter on Big Ben. They have Beautiful Boy 1. They have Gorgeous Sweet Twink 2. And then they have a horribly ugly daughter called Elizabeth of York. Right. So if you could just change Elizabeth of York to horribly ugly.
Is she horribly ugly?
Compared to the beautiful, sweet, gorgeous boys.
Fine.
Horribly ugly daughter. Right. So that should have cleared things up for the listeners.
Yeah.
And that is all the Lancastrian side. So the Wars of the Roses, this kick off in 1455 with the Battle of St Albans.
Right.
Again.
You gigged there?
I was born in St Albans.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So it's just a pure commuter town. Right?
It's quite pretty, quite expensive.
It's sort of like people who can't accept that they're leaving London, right? It's like it's the least you can. It's the closest London you could be without not being in London, really.
It's one of those places where they say, "Oh, what's that like?" They go, "It's great. We can get to King's Cross in half an hour." And you go, "Right, okay." Sort of kill yourself.
Yeah, with the kind of pleading eyes.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Basically, all the things I'd want to do in London, I could do. Really.
When I lived in Brixton, it was half an hour to King's Cross anyway.
Yeah, get a train past 11:30 then. Yeah. Oh, I can't do that.
No, I can't do that. So the Battle of St Albans, that's Richard Walrus, and Big Shagger. They're fighting for control against King Henry VI.
Biden from birth, is married to Margaret of Anjou.
Now, who is Margaret of Anjou?
French bird French birds have caused issues constantly.
Smelly. Can you make Margaret of Anjou bracket smelly?
Right.
Who's that, Charlie?
Miss St Albans.
Right.
Okay, so that should give the viewers a picture of what St Albans is like. Just judging it purely on who won the most recent Miss St Albans. Who's that?
Right.
That's Miss South Hertfordshire. Charlie,
come on.
You've done really well.
We've got a lot of things to work through.
Charlie, you've done really well with not putting porn on the TV. Okay?
But can you just do things that are relevant to what we're talking about?
You've done really... I want to give you a carrot along with a stick. You've been really good at not putting porn on the TV recently. Okay?
Thank you.
So can you please stop Googling who won Miss South Hertfordshire? Right. Sorry, we just need to get this right for the sake of it. Margaret of Anjou, bracket smelly, because she's French. Thank you.
Anyway, so because her husband's an invalid, right, she's doing a lot of the ruling. She's kind of seen as quite a Lady Macbeth character, but it's potentially just sexual of the age.
She's got shit in her hands rather than blood in her hands.
Fine, yeah.
Because she's French.
Because she's French. Brilliant. And...
What's the famous Lady Macbeth quote about the blood in her hands?
I don't remember it.
What's the Lady Macbeth quote?
Let's move on.
Anyway, fine. She's got shitty hands.
Right. But partly because of that is why people are now being new claimants to the throne. And they also don't think that his son... So Henry VI does have a son, Edward of Westminster.
Another Edward, for fuck's sake.
Another Edward of Westminster. But he potentially, Margaret of Anjou was like sleeping with a guy in court because her husband's an invalid. You know, this is a classic thing.
So even if Edward of Westminster is the biological son, he's half smelly, half disabled.
Sure.
So he's out of the picture.
He dies in, I think, the battle against Richard of Walrus, I believe, or one of those battles.
Yeah.
Tewkesbury? Yeah, that's the Battle of Tewkesbury he dies in, right?
Yeah.
And when he's 17. So that line is kaput because he dies in 1471.
In 1461...
Right, so 10 years before this guy dies, I guess.
The eldest brother, Edward IV, Big Shagger, classic Shagger, he wins the Battle of Towton, which is the bloodiest battle to happen on English soil.
Really?
But it was snowing, so maybe you could see the blood.
Fine.
He becomes king, deposing Biden from birth, child's mind, Henry VI.
Yeah.
He goes back into a castle to play with fucking, I don't know, an abacus or something. Meanwhile, Richard III, back in from Grease Spine, he's being raised at Middleham Castle under the Earl of Warwick, I think.
Yes, he's known as the Kingmaker.
What does that mean? He just chooses who the king is?
I guess so. Maybe he's just sort of like a powerful middleman type person, who maybe has a big private army, potentially, and whoever he backs.
Yeah, because then Warwick rebels against Edward IV, the big shagger. They say, you're shagging too much. Edward IV is also, he's like 6'4". He's the tallest king ever, which...
yes, he's until I think Prince William will take the throne.
Yes.
So he's the only one who's...
Spoiler alert.
If Prince William...
At time of recording, William's still prince.
So if Prince William becomes king, he will be potentially taller than Edward IV.
Yeah.
But for the time, everyone is like 5'2". So this
he's
6'4" is a fucking Guinness World Record holder, sort of.
And Richard III is quite tall, but he has a Beckham against Grease Spine, so he's like...
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, Edward IV, Big Shagger, is deposed, and then Biden from birth is restored to the throne in 1470.
Because they wake him... Yeah, so because Edward IV has taken over from Henry VI because he's an invalid, that causes a civil war. And they wake the invalid up and get him back on the throne. Yeah.
Then in the 1470s, Richard, Beckham against Grease Spine, he's been training how to fight. This is the age where kings still fight on horses and stuff. Yeah. You have battles in incredibly boring places like Barnet, where Warwick's killed, Tewkesbury,
where Edward of Westminster, half smelly, half disabled, gets killed. Yeah,
which is it's a hate crime, really. Yep. And then Biden from birth is murdered. He gets sent to, is it Pontefract? Yeah. Which is like a euphemism for killing someone.
Yes,
He's been sent to Pontefract.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Boring. 1475, Beckham from Greece is appointed Duke of Gloucester, and he's given a lot of large land holdings. Right. He then starts to boss it as a kind of a northern Yorkist ruler.
He's a smart... cunning guy.
Well,
we don't know.
Yeah, he is.
That's
but
the
kind of cunning evilness of it is probably the Shakespearean imagination. Then we get to the real spicy juice, right? Edward IV suddenly dies.
And when you say he dies suddenly, he is taking. He's got like this order for like hermetic potions and stuff so that he can fit three more courses in his belly.
Yeah, what's a hermetic again? It's like Rene's.
I imagine so. I mean, he's going to an apothecary and saying, how can you make it so I can have 5 dinners? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So he's ballooning and he dies around the age of 40. I mean, so when people say dies suddenly, it's like, what? You mean the guy who wouldn't stop eating 6 dinners and 15 pints a night?
When I was on I was maybe 11 and I used to be a very, very fat young boy. I went on a school trip to Rome.
You always feel fat on the inside, Finn. I hope you know that.
No, it never leaves you. Mentally, I'm fat. Mentally, I can't stop eating. What happened basically was that I was a fat boy and then I got taller. That's what happened. I never actually lost the weight. I never actually changed my lifestyle. So I had a growth spurt and it kind of evened out.
You got stretched out.
Essentially, I got stretched out. So 10 or 11, we go on a classics trip to Rome and Sorrento. Right. There was, because it's a posh school, one of the...
lot of ice cream for you?
Yeah. A lot of gelato. Well, wait till I tell the story. One of the, I think, because it was quite an expensive school, the owner of an insane hotel in the Naples area, like a 6-star hotel, was his kid. He wanted to send his kids there. So when he found out that there was a school trip happening to the area, he was like, well, we're not going to put you up, but come and have a dinner in our insane 6-star restaurant. And it was proper Roman style 10 courses. Right. And I ate so much pasta that I went to the toilet, threw up, and then came back and carried on eating. Which is what the Romans used to do. They used to have a vomitorium or vomitoria. Yeah. So I kind of relate to Big Shagger Edward IV in that there was a period of my life where 6 courses wasn't enough.
Do you think as a king you'd be more in the Edward IV, Henry VIII sort of mould?
I think I'd eat so much that my spine would bend. And that my stomach would be so distended that I'd be like...
Because as we remember, you looked around, was it Gordonston?
Yes. Yeah.
And though, it's a posh school, but your fatness outweighed your poshness at that point, where it was like...
Well, Gordonston, and then I think we dealt with this in the Patreon special about Prince Andrew.
It's like a fat camp for posh kids, Gordonston.
Yeah, it is.
And you turned to your mum and said, Mum, if you send me here, I will die.
Yes. Yeah, I have a vivid memory of that. I said, you can't get a job here because I will die. because Gornston is like, it is. It's a sort of military leaning.
Because 5 burpees and you're going to have a cardiac arrest.
It's set in the burpees for me then were just burps, were sicky burps. They said do 10 burpees, and I would just do 10 sicky burps, and they go no, that's not what that is. Yeah. Anyway. So Edward IV, the classic shagger, he's eating so much that he's going to the pharmacy so
and shock horror, he dies.
Yeah, he dies. And so this leads this absolute chaos, because Edward IV, in this time, in this day and age, you would prepare, a king is on their deathbed and the court would prepare who was going to come next. They'd, the factions of who supported who, they'd kind of get sorted out, and people would move against other factions, and they would prepare the ground for kind of smooth succession where everyone could kind of unite against and into this sort of chaos is where Richard III, or at this point he's still Beckham against Griesbein.
We need to talk about the middle brother, Fredo from The Godfather.
Right.
So Fredo from The Godfather, during Edward IV's reign, constantly rebels against Edward because he wants to be king. Right. In quite a ratty sort of middle child way. Yeah. He can't deal with the fact that he's not the eldest or the youngest, and he takes it out by like 4 times. He keeps getting exiled to France and then coming back with a new force, constantly trying to kill his brother. Edward IV, which rest of history say is similar to Henry VIII, is quite a sentimental character and loves his brother, very much like Fredo. Yeah. Right. But after the 4th time his brother has raised an army and tried to kill him to take the throne, Ed was like, I'm sorry, lad, you've got to go. Yeah. Right? And so he says to him, because you're my brother and I love you, you can choose how you die. So he says, I'm going to choose to die in a barrel of your bitch wife, Elizabeth Woodville's favourite wine. No. Malmsey wine. So that every time she drinks it, she thinks of me. Right,
that's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. So he's drowned in a barrel of Malmsey wine.
But did Elizabeth Woodville like Fredo from The Godfather?
No, they hated each other.
Right. So actually, thinking of me dying when you drink your favourite wine is actually just a really good thing.
I thought that as well.
That's like saying, when I'm going to kill you. I want to die in front of your favourite film. So whenever you watch your favourite film,
he seems like he was a little bitch and didn't really understand. Even in death, it's like, well, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. But to be fair to him, his brother is 6'4", he's a giant, and his other brother is disabled with a bendy spine, so he gets all the attention. Fine. And the big guy's big.
It's true. He is
kind of
he's a classic middle child.
Classic middle child.
Right.
So, 1483, Edward IV dies suddenly, too much eating, and his son, the beautiful sweet boy number 1, is a gorgeous little thing. He is named, he's 12 at this point.
The oldest one's 12, the younger one's 8.
My God.
But by the way...
Don't threaten me with a good time.
The 12-year-old boy is already a widow.
No, it's the younger one.
Oh, it's the younger one.
Yeah, the 9-year-old has been...
Gorgeous Sweet Twink 2.
The Gorgeous Sweet Twink 2 on this timeline. Yeah. He's been widowed for 3 years.
That's amazing.
Because he got married when he was 5.
Because now, these days, you have millennials doing Edinburgh shows about struggling to adult, Yes. I don't feel like an adult. You're 35, Sharon.
Pay your bills.
Whereas back in the day, this guy's already been widowed. He's 8 years old. He's been married for 3 years and his wife died.
Yeah. Yeah. He died age 9 and he was married longer than you've ever been.
Yeah. I mean, he's walking. He's already a dad and he's 7 years old. He's walking around houses knocking on wood saying,
What's this made of? What's this made of? When people are saying, I came up from St Albans. Oh, how'd you get there?
He's already doing that.
Did you go M25 or did you just go... Did you go local roads? Because they're not marked down there at night.
Rolling his eyes, the old ball and chain. There he goes, fucking on the blower
calling me back again, is she? Yeah. So, Gorgeous Sweet Twink 2, widowed, I think at age 7, 8, something like that. He's also in charge of the administration of Wales.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Which,
but he's a full-grown adult. He's
I mean, he's getting it done.
I trust him.
He lived a full life.
He's lived a full life.
Age 9.
He's working the grindstone. He's doing a job.
He's done more than I ever have.
He's just drowning in paperwork. The wife's fucking nagging.
I reckon maybe these boys killed themselves. Yeah, because they were married and they had to look after Wales. Who knows? Anyway, Edward V. The beautiful sweet boy number 1, the 12-year-old, he is made king. And I think what we should do is we should end this episode here, given we have completely and inarguably set the scene.
Yes.
For what's going to happen
have set
now.
the scene better.
We couldn't be clearer for the Wars of the Roses.
Yeah.
So we're gonna in our next episode we will carry on the story. We will see what Richard does.
Who done it?
We will find out what happens to the beautiful sweet boys in the tower.
Yeah.
As you've said it, the English medieval 9/11.
Another one.
I know there's been another one. And that episode is already on our Patreon, where for £3 a month you can become a truther and get access to all the week's episodes first thing on a Monday and the bonus episode every Friday. But either way, thank you so much for listening, watching, and we shall see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.